$100 does not look like a life-changing amount of money. It can feel small enough to spend without thinking, small enough to replace later, and small enough to ignore when it disappears. But that is exactly why the $100 mistake can become so expensive. The problem usually is not the first $100. The problem is what that decision teaches you to repeat. Imagine receiving $100 today. You could spend it on something exciting, something convenient, or something you simply feel like having. Maybe it is a gadget, a meal, a subscription, or a purchase you tell yourself you deserve. At first, nothing seems wrong. The money is gone, but life continues. Then another small purchase happens. And another. Soon, the issue is no longer one purchase. It is a pattern. That is where money starts becoming difficult. A small decision reduces the amount available for something else. Maybe a bill arrives before your next paycheck. Maybe an unexpected expense appears. Maybe your account balance is lower than expected, so you use a credit card to cover the gap. Now the original purchase has a second cost. The first cost was the $100 you spent. The second cost is the financial pressure created because that $100 is no longer available. That pressure can lead to late payments. Late payments can lead to fees. Fees can lead to borrowing. Borrowing can create interest, and interest can keep the original decision alive long after the thing you purchased has lost its excitement. This is why personal finance is not just about how much money you earn. It is also about what happens to your money after you earn it. One of the most dangerous sentences in personal finance is, "It is only $100." Because $100 repeated 12 times is $1,200. $100 repeatedly placed into unnecessary spending can become thousands over several years. And the opposite is also true. $100 consistently redirected towards savings, debt repayment, or long-term investing can create a completely different financial outcome. The important question is not simply, can I afford this? A better question is, what else could this money do? That question introduces one of the most important concepts in finance, opportunity cost. Every dollar has choices. When you spend a dollar on something you do not really value, that dollar cannot simultaneously build your emergency fund. It cannot reduce expensive debt. It cannot help you reach a savings goal. It cannot be invested for a future need. You are always choosing. Sometimes the purchase is absolutely worth it. There is nothing wrong with spending money. Money is supposed to provide value, security, experiences, convenience, and enjoyment. The danger comes when spending happens automatically. That is why small recurring expenses deserve attention. A single subscription might not feel important. A few dollars for convenience might not feel important. A small delivery charge might not feel important. But your bank account does not care whether each charge felt important. It simply adds them together. The same thing happens with food purchases, entertainment, upgrades, impulse shopping, and lifestyle inflation. Lifestyle inflation is especially dangerous because it often arrives quietly. You earn a little more, so you spend a little more. You get a raise, so your apartment becomes more expensive. You earn extra income, so your phone, car, meals, vacations, and subscriptions become more expensive. Eventually, you can earn significantly more money without feeling significantly richer. The goal is not to avoid every improvement in your lifestyle. The goal is to make sure your lifestyle does not automatically consume every increase in income. When income rises, your savings rate can rise too. Your emergency fund can rise. Your debt payments can rise. Your investment contributions can rise. That is how a raise can create lasting wealth instead of simply creating a more expensive lifestyle. Now think about what happens when a small mistake creates a cash flow problem. Maybe a bill arrives and your checking account is short. Instead of paying the bill directly, you use a credit card. That feels like a solution because the immediate problem disappears. But the financial problem has not disappeared. It has moved. Now you owe the money to someone else, and depending on the account, interest may begin increasing the cost. This is one reason minimum payments can be dangerous. A minimum payment can make a large balance feel manageable today while allowing the balance to remain expensive for a long time. When dealing with debt, especially high-interest debt, understand the cost of waiting. The longer expensive debt remains, the more money can leave your future income without giving you anything new in return. You are paying for yesterday's decision with tomorrow's money. That is the opposite of what you want your money to do. You want tomorrow's money to create options. That is why a cash cushion matters. An emergency fund is not exciting. Nobody feels rich looking at a savings account designed for emergencies, but that boring money can be incredibly valuable. A repair, medical bill, unexpected trip, temporary loss of income, or urgent household expense does not have to become new debt when you have money set aside. The emergency fund acts like financial shock absorption. Instead of turning every surprise into a crisis, you have a buffer. And once that buffer is strong enough, you can think more clearly about long-term goals. This is where investing can become useful, but investing should come after understanding your own situation. You should know your cash flow. You should understand your debt. You should consider your emergency savings, and you should understand the risks of whatever investment you choose. Long-term investing is not about finding a magical shortcut. It is about consistency, time, diversification where appropriate, and allowing growth to work over many years. This is where the idea of opportunity cost becomes powerful again. Suppose you regularly waste $100 each month. That is not just $100. That is $1,200 every year. If that money instead goes toward an important financial goal, you have changed the direction of your finances. The exact result of investing depends on returns, fees, taxes, time, and other factors. Nothing is guaranteed, but the behavioral lesson is certain. Money that is consistently redirected toward productive goals has more potential than money that disappears through unplanned spending. And this brings us to one of the biggest money lessons of all. You do not need perfect discipline. You need better systems. Instead of relying on motivation every payday, automate a transfer to savings. Instead of trying to remember every subscription, review your statements regularly. Instead of shopping whenever you feel like it, create a list. Instead of buying immediately, create a waiting period for non-essential purchases. Instead of increasing every expense when your income rises, decide in advance how much of the increase will go toward future goals. This is financial friction. Make good choices easier. Make impulsive choices slightly harder. A waiting period can be surprisingly powerful. When something feels urgent, your emotions are often doing the talking. 24 hours later, the purchase may not feel nearly as important. That is not because the product changed. You changed. The emotional intensity changed. And that gives you the chance to decide rather than react. The same principle works for large purchases. If something costs a significant amount of money, give yourself time. Compare alternatives. Check the total cost. Ask how often you will actually use it. Ask whether you already own something that solves the same problem. Ask what your money would look like if you kept it instead. A discount does not create savings if you never needed the item. A cheaper product is not automatically better value. The best financial decision is the one that provides useful value without damaging your larger goals. This is why budgeting matters. A budget is not a punishment. A budget is a plan for assigning money before the money disappears. When you know how much goes toward housing, food, transportation, debt, savings, investments, and discretionary spending, your decisions become clearer. You do not have to track every penny forever, but you should understand where your money goes. Look at your statements. Review recurring payments. Find the charges you forgot about. Identify expenses that provide little value. Then redirect the money. One small expense may not transform your life, but changing the habit behind that expense can. The same applies to income. Cutting expenses can help, but earning more can also create powerful opportunities. Developing a valuable skill can increase earning potential. A side income can provide extra flexibility. A raise can accelerate debt repayment or savings. But remember the lifestyle inflation trap. When income increases, do not let every additional dollar immediately become a new monthly obligation. An extra $100 of income is much more powerful when part of it becomes an asset than when all of it becomes another bill. Think of money as a tool. Every dollar can have a job. Some dollars protect you. Some dollars pay for today's needs. Some dollars eliminate expensive debt. Some dollars build future wealth. Some dollars provide enjoyment. There is nothing wrong with any of these categories. The problem happens when every dollar gets assigned to consumption while nothing is assigned to your future. That is how people can earn decent incomes and still feel financially trapped. The solution is not necessarily to become extremely restrictive. The solution is intentionality. Spend on things you genuinely value. Reduce spending that exists mainly because it is convenient, automatic, emotional, or habitual. This distinction matters. Intentional spending is not the same as never spending. You can enjoy restaurants. You can buy technology. You can travel. You can spend on hobbies. You can improve your home. You can enjoy your money. The goal is to make sure those decisions are compatible with your larger financial plan. This is where the $100 test becomes useful. Whenever you are about to spend $100 or more on something non-essential, pause. Ask 3 questions. Do I actually need this? Will I still value it a month from now? What would happen if I used this money for a financial goal instead? You do not have to choose the financial goal every time, but asking the question changes the decision. It turns automatic spending into conscious spending, and conscious spending is much easier to control. Another important lesson is that progress often feels invisible at first. Saving your first $100 may not feel impressive. Then you save another 100, then another. Eventually, you realize that your account has started creating breathing room. Debt begins shrinking, emergency savings grows, investments accumulate, and your financial decisions begin producing evidence that your system is working. This is why consistency beats intensity. You do not need one spectacular financial decision. You need hundreds of reasonable decisions. You do not need to become obsessed with money. You need to stop ignoring it. Review your finances every month. Ask what worked. Ask what did not. Ask which expense surprised you. Ask whether your savings rate improved. Ask whether your debt decreased. Ask whether your income increased. Then make one improvement. Just one. Maybe you cancel one unused subscription. Maybe you automate one transfer. Maybe you stop buying one unnecessary item. Maybe you put an extra payment toward expensive debt. Maybe you learn one skill that could increase your income. Small improvements are easier to maintain, and maintained improvements compound. There is also a psychological side to money that people often underestimate. We tend to justify purchases emotionally. We say, I worked hard. We say, I deserve this. We say, it is only this once. But just this once can become a habit. That does not mean you should never reward yourself. It means you should make sure the reward does not quietly become a recurring expense. Emotions are part of financial decision-making. You do not have to eliminate emotion. You simply need enough structure that emotion does not control every decision. That is why automatic transfers, spending limits, waiting periods, written goals, and separate accounts can be helpful. They reduce the number of decisions you have to make when you are tired, stressed, excited, or distracted. Good financial behavior should not depend on having a perfect day. Now consider another principle. Avoid financing a lifestyle you cannot comfortably support with your current cash flow. Debt can be useful for certain purposes, but borrowing to maintain an expensive lifestyle can create long-term pressure. You do not want your future income permanently committed to yesterday's purchases. You want flexibility. Flexibility means having options. Options come from cash reserves, manageable expenses, lower high-interest debt, growing assets, and developing income sources. That is what financial progress really buys. Not just things, options. The ability to handle an emergency. The ability to change jobs. the ability to take a calculated opportunity, the ability to say no to a bad deal, the ability to invest consistently, the ability to sleep better because every unexpected expense does not immediately become a crisis. That is the deeper value of financial stability, and it often begins with very ordinary choices. The next $100, the next subscription, the next meal, the next impulse purchase, the next payment, the next paycheck. You do not need to control the entire future. You only need to improve the next decision. So what should you do with this lesson? Start by reviewing the last 30 days of spending. Look for purchases that were unnecessary, forgotten, duplicated, emotional, or recurring. Find your personal version of the $100 mistake. Maybe it is food delivery. Maybe it is subscriptions. Maybe it is shopping. Maybe it is upgrades. Maybe it is interest. Maybe it is simply spending without a plan. Once you find it, do not criticize yourself. Study it. Understand why it happened. Then design a better system. If the problem is impulse spending, create a waiting period. If the problem is subscriptions, review them monthly. If the problem is low savings, automate transfers. If the problem is debt, prioritize expensive balances. If the problem is lifestyle inflation, decide what percentage of future income increases will go toward financial goals. If the problem is low income, develop skills and look for ways to increase earning power. The point is not to become perfect. The point is to become deliberate, because the real danger of a $100 mistake is not losing $100. The real danger is repeating the decision until it becomes normal, and the real opportunity is the opposite. Take $100 and give it a job. Use it to create a buffer. Use it to reduce expensive debt. Use it to build a financial habit. Use it to invest appropriately for your goals and risk tolerance. Use it for something meaningful. Then repeat. Small choices become patterns. Patterns become systems. Systems create outcomes. The money you manage today becomes the flexibility you have tomorrow. So the next time you hear yourself saying, "It is only $100, pause. Maybe it is only $100. Or maybe it is the next building block of your financial future. The choice is yours. And the most important choice is not the purchase. It is the habit behind the purchase.